to continue just looking at or browsing through some of the different subjects that are covered in a school, and definitely in an Orthodox school, and to see how our maybe unique understanding or sense about those subjects and how it benefits a child on their pathway, that's consistent with an Orthodox goal. One of the subjects is music, and this is such an important subject. I know there's controversy in many schools that have problems with their budgets about whether to keep music in the curriculum or not, because it's not functional towards maybe science and math per se, although some studies say that people who know music are better in mathematics than children who don't, and so that it actually helps mathematical understanding. There's a rhythm and all these different things, and certainly music, relates to language arts in that some parallel between the structure of music in its themes and various themes and the kind of completion of a theme and how a literary piece might be presented. So that's one thing. But one of the Optina elders actually said how important music was in preparing the soul to receive spiritual impressions, good music. And Shakespeare is radical or adamant in one of his plays where he says a man without music is fit for treason and murder. And that he's reiterating the fact that music has an effect on the soul. Some music is so sublime, so beautiful. It's close to the singing of angels, and certainly we have liturgical music that some of which saints heard. Heavenly music they heard, some of it that was written down, and it's a beautiful thing. A couple of times I've heard from parents how they've been amazed when the children have gone to school, St. Herman's School, that they hear them singing in the shower, "Rejoice, O Valam," or something like this. And what a wonderful thing it is to have a child singing something like that rather than some a pop tune or some jingle from an advertisement. Music obviously works its way deeply into us, and it can be very beneficial or it can be very harmful. And I know I talked to some young people who were getting involved in music and writing lyrics, and talked to them about, you're writing things, sometimes dark ideas, and sometimes young people do this just to experiment. They're not really necessarily even feeling particularly dark, but there's something interesting about writing like this. And I said, well, how about if you write about something really dark and depressing, and it affects somebody in the audience who's really in a depressed state, and what you said to them threw them over the edge, and then you're responsible for that. So, I hope that it would, wake them up to say, I'm responsible for what I put in lyrics or how I express music, because music has a very profound effect on us. There's different types of music. There's classical music, there's liturgical music, there's music that was used for people to march into war, that would stir their, spirits and give them, a certain vitality and lust for fighting or something like this. So, the education of a young person in music and to discern, to understand, and also education in terms of learning or being exposed to beautiful music is very important. The other side is that in music and in performing music, children can have experiences that relate to church themes like cooperation, ensemble, where you perform a certain part of the performance and someone else does, and you have to blend together nicely. You have to kind of work together to create something greater than the sum of its parts. So there's there's consistent ideas between music, singing, chorus, ensemble, and Christian life together. Another field that I want to talk about is physical education. When you ask children sometimes what are their two favorite subjects, it might be lunch and phys ed. But what's the purpose of physical education? To some people, it's just, this is a place that the children could just let off steam and so that they can get back to academics and learn. But, deeper thinkers have seen in physical education something that you could say would be the ascetic dimension of their school life or just life itself. Metropolitan Herotheos of Lachos wrote a piece at the time when the Greeks were inviting the Olympics there. He wrote a piece on the place of this, physical exercise in spiritual life. It's interesting. I read also the biography of Anna Pavlova, who's the greatest, one of the greatest ballerinas of Russia, and she said that she was like known for her beautiful leaps. She just like would leap and hang in the air. People thought, and she said she trained her body that when she leapt up, that she would make every cell of her body leap with her. And in this, we see, the example of how, the idea of the body becoming like a handmaiden of the soul, the body obeying the soul and the spirit, rather than the other way, where the body determines for the soul and the spirit something, because the body's not trained in that way. And so, physical education can be thought of as a way to help children, young people, to master their body, to master the flesh, to learn that it can be pushed beyond comfort level, that you could wait on certain needs or desires because your body does not rule you. And so this is one of the aspects of physical education and physical training, and also the relationship between that and obedience, because a coach is very important in developing skill in sports. I remember seeing some young men in wrestling, and the first time I saw a high school and college wrestling match, I was amazed at the interaction between the coach and the wrestlers, how the coach would be right, almost, not exactly in the field of the wrestling, but right outside that, yelling at his victim or his student what to do. And it's interesting in wrestling, because sometimes your face is in the ground. You can't see anything. Your opponent's on top of you. You can't tell what he's doing. And so you have to really listen to your coach. Your coach says, do bridge, or whatever he says, and you have to do it because you don't know what the right thing is to do. So there's this sense also of obedience, or even in basketball, football, where the coach might tell you exactly what to do. And so this is another aspect of training in sports that relates to spiritual training. And of course, I love to use the analogy of this physical training with something that we have in our own spiritual training, which is prostrations, spiritual squat thrusts, that people are so willing to do, work out in different ways. And this is a wonderful way to work out that has great benefit for young people and old people to actually learn how to do prostrations, where we're saying, we're beseeching Christ to have mercy upon us, and we're humbling our body. And to see, this is a beautiful thing too, to see in maybe sports and also in ballet and other physical expressions, to see the relationship between the body and spiritual dimensions of our life. That when our body is brought down to the earth, then it helps us to maybe conceive of the whole idea of humility. So this is another aspect of education where what we call academic or normal subjects in education can help in spiritual life. And one other one that I wanted to mention is handcrafts. In biology, there's three types of creatures: consumers, producers, and decomposers. And Christians are meant not to be consumers, but to be producers.
Redhead boy becomes a red